What if I told you that the budget stressing you out every month in the US could make you wealthy in South America? $2,000. Same number, completely different life. In California, that budget put you in a one bedroom plus constant apprehension. In England, that amount means cutting corners, delaying travel, and worrying about bills. But in South America, $2,000 means a standard of living that feels impossible in the US or UK. I lived in South America during 26 years of my life. And today I'll break down 10 different locations where that income gives you a comfortable middle class to upper middle and even elite social class. The same budget can unlock a home with a swimming pool, weekly restaurant meals, and even frequent travel to the beach or ski resorts. Once you see side by side what is possible, your idea of financial freedom may change forever. The surprises are not just about cost, they are about how much better is the lifestyle you will afford. So let's start with the criteria used to define your living costs in South America. To ensure fairness, we employ the same approach in every country. Each sample city was chosen because expats showed a strong interest in it in our previous videos. Most of these cities have between 500,000 and 1.5 million residents. That means good hospitals, services, and entertainment, but without the overwhelming traffic or inflated price tags of megacities like Buenos Aires or São Paulo. We tested the same 2,000 monthly budget in each city. Rent was fixed as the anchor expense between 25 to 35% of income, or about $500 to $700. That is considered healthy because if you spend 50 or 60% of your income on rent, what remains might not be enough to enjoy life. Besides rent, the monthly breakdown also considers groceries, dining out, transport, utilities, and a cushion for leisure and savings. That's why using the same income across different settings is powerful. It shows not just how numbers change, but how your lifestyle changes with them. To put it into perspective, that same budget in some parts of the US or UK would force you to live with a roommate. In contrast, in the cities I will show you next, it gives you much, much more than that. Now, let's see what looks like country by country. Argentina. Mendoza is our pick in Argentina. This city sits at the foot of the Andes, close to Chile's border, and is home to about 1 million people in the wider metro area. The climate's dry with hot summers, mild winters, and plenty of sunny days, make it an attractive place for outdoor living and for those who enjoy wine country scenery. Among the major Argentinian cities, Mendoza is one of the safest, and it also has some of the highest life satisfaction indexes. This is what a local told us. Open quote, Mendoza is one of the safest parts of Argentina. There are some dangerous areas like in the rest of the country, but you just need to be careful, attentive to possible thieves. If you have to judge by appearance, do it. Walking around with your cell phone stored away at night, but nothing more. End quote. It's also a regional center with universities, hospitals, and infrastructure expected in a mid-sized South American city. I covered Mendoza in detail in another video, and many of my viewers agreed that it is, indeed, one of the best in the country. Now, Argentina's economy has a reputation for instability. Inflation rates are high, and many visitors think this makes a settled life impossible. But if your income comes in US dollars, you see almost the reverse effect. The frequent peso devaluations actually increase your purchasing power. Rents for a one-bedroom place in a central area average between $450 and $600, and even a larger two-bedroom in a quiet but connected neighborhood can reach only about $700. Setting aside $500 to $700 for housing secures a modern apartment, often with a balcony. Monthly utilities are reasonable, between $50 to $100, with variations in winter when heating is needed. Groceries cost about $220 and dining adds around $320, which means you could comfortably eat out 3 to 5 times weekly. Public transport and ride-hailing rarely push past $50 monthly, and the city is very walkable in central areas. When you tally the categories, $2,000 supports not only rent, food, and utilities, but also leaves a cushion of about $350 to $400 for travel or savings. Locally, this positions you as an upper middle class, with access to comforts that many residents cannot afford. To put into perspective, that same $2,000 in New York or Los Angeles often places you in the lower middle class and likely with roommates. Next stop is a place where the very shape of your commute changes. And talking about commute and easiness to live, I'm thinking about making a video with the most livable medium cities in South America. If you are interested on such topic, let me know in the comment section. Bolivia. What if your morning commute wasn't spent in gridlock but gliding over the city in a cable car? That is daily life in La Paz, Bolivia. The city sits at more than 3,600 meters above sea level in a steep valley surrounded by mountains. It's by far the highest national capital in the world. Around 800,000 people live within the city limits and over 2 million in the metro area. Due to the altitude, the climate stays cool year-round with mild days and chilly nights. Zona Sur, at a lower elevation, is warmer and has become the preferred residential area for many expats. A former resident of La Paz told us that, open quote, as someone who lived there, I loved it, but I think it highly depends on what part you live in. I lived in the Zona Sur, which is at a slightly lower altitude, and the more modern part of the city. Super chill, tranquil, great restaurants everywhere, clean, pretty, none of the exposed brick buildings everywhere, end quote. Outsiders often think Bolivia is too rugged or underdeveloped for comfortable living, but the numbers tell a different story. With a $500 to $700 budget, you can rent a secure modern 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in Zona Sur or Sopocachi. Buildings in these neighborhoods usually include elevators, security, and decent finishes. Utility typically costs $60 to $120 per month, rising a little in the coldest months due to heating. Groceries average around $230 monthly, dining out hovers between $260 and $320 each month, which allows you to enjoy restaurants several times per week. There is also the almuerzo option, set lunches that cost only a few dollars. Transportation comes with its own twist. The Mi Teleférico cable car network connects different zones by spanning hills and mountains, making crossings both quicker and scenic. A monthly transport budget of $50 to $70 is enough. Overall, a $2,000 income covers rent, utilities, food, and entertainment, while leaving about $435 free for travel or savings. In La Paz, that buys you an upper-class to elite lifestyle. Compare that with San Francisco, a budget of $2,000 puts you with a lot of roommates or even worse, in Oakland. Next, let's move east to a much bigger country. But before I have some really good news, my Expat Wealth and Lifestyle Compass valued $180 is yours free for a limited time. Receive our 74-page analysis of affordable cities in Spain, Italy, and France, our guide for zero-income tax countries that can save you up to $15,600 per month, and the checklist that prevents costly mistakes. Don't let your chances go away. Scan this QR code now and join us for free. Brazil. Our selected city in Brazil is Florianópolis, located in the southern state of Santa Catarina. Known simply as Floripa, it's an island city with a metro population of around 500,000. The climate is subtropical with hot summers, mild winters, and a long coastline of accessible beaches. Beyond tourism, Florianópolis has become a tech hub, attracting startups and entrepreneurs, as I covered in a previous video. This mix of natural setting and economic activity is what makes it appealing to both Brazilians and expats. Many assume living there would demand Rio de Janeiro level prices, especially near the beaches, while waterfront apartments in places like Lagoa da Conceição can quickly push past reasonable budgets. Positioning yourself in central or mainland neighborhoods paint a different picture. In areas such as Canasvieiras, Coqueiros, or Agronômica, a modern one-bedroom runs about $600 per month, usually in buildings with a doorman, elevators, and parking. Some even include access to small gyms or pools. With a $600 housing budget, you can find a really nice place to live. Utilities in Florianópolis average from $70 to $120, mostly because air conditioning sees heavy use in summer. Food expenses have climbed in recent years. Groceries for one person average $207 monthly, while eating out comes to about $300 if you mix casual luncheonettes with more established seafood spots. Getting around by bus or ride-hailing services costs from $60 to $120 per month. Traffic is common on bridges and peak-hour routes. Adding in household items, personal care, and occasional nightlife, the complete monthly breakdown leaves a realistic cushion of about $200 to $250 from the $2,000 budget. In short, that level of income places you in the upper middle class locally, with comfortable housing and beach access. Meanwhile, in Miami, $2,000 buys you the privilege of picking which bill you delay. In Florianópolis, you get your own apartment and maybe even a sea view. Now we move west, Chile. Imagine living 5 minutes from the Pacific with a beautiful view and sunny weather, but paying a fraction of what it would cost in California. That's the reality in Viña del Mar, Chile. The city is about 120 kilometers from Santiago and has a population of around 330,000. It's known for its beaches and public parks. The climate is Mediterranean, with warm, dry summers and mild winters, making it attractive for those who want the coastal lifestyle without extreme seasonal swings. Viña del Mar is considered one of Chile's more polished cities, and because of that, many people assume it's out of reach for moderated budgets. A Chilean from Santiago that lived in Viña told us that, open quote, Chile is very expensive compared to other more popular nomad options. A lot of places in Viña are kinda posh, so you may see very high priced stays and rent, but Uber is pretty cheap. End quote. Compared to some South American peers, Viña is pricier, especially for housing and food. Still, with $700 per month or less, you get a one-bedroom apartment in central districts or in Recreo. In less central neighborhoods, the same money can even stretch to a two-bedroom. Utility bills vary between $100 to $140, combining electricity, water, internet, and mobile use. Groceries are about $290 monthly, which means higher costs compared to regional averages, but still below North American levels. Dining out 2 to 3 times per week adds another $330. Transport stays reasonable, usually between $50 to $90 if you rely on public transport and ride-sharing apps. It places you in the middle class locally, but not at an elite level, since Chile's costs are noticeably higher than its many neighbors. It might sound expensive compared to the other cities and countries you discover today, but compare that to San Diego, California, where $2,000 barely covers rent. From there, let's move to one of the cheapest countries in entire South America. And talking about statistics and rankings, if you enjoy our database and research-driven videos that we put a lot of work to do, I would be glad if you could click on the like and subscribe button. It will be such a great help for us. Colombia. Do you think Colombia is only about Medellin or Bogota? Many people focus on those two cities, but Bucaramanga offers a different option. Known as the city of parks, it has a reputation for green space and a relaxed pace. Located in the northeast of the country near the Andes, the city has a metro area of around 1 million people. The climate is stable year-round, with warm days and mild nights. Bucaramanga often gets overlooked by expats who assume it lacks amenities. In another video, I compared to other major Colombian cities to show its advantages. But Bucaramanga in reality has a strong value in housing compared to bigger Colombian cities. With a budget around $600, you can secure a new 2-room apartment in areas like Cabecera or Sotomayor. Utilities remain affordable, about $100 per month. Grocery costs average $230 for a person, and this already includes regular use of high-quality produce and meats. Dining out is also inexpensive. Setting aside $320 per month allows for 3 to 5 restaurant outings every week. Transport adds very little strain. Buses and ride-sharing apps keep monthly expenses at around $60. Combining expenses, a person on $2,000 spends around $1,635 on essentials and leisure, leaving about $365 as a cushion for travel or savings. With that income, you land solidly in the upper middle class by local standards, enjoying comfort and conveniences far above average. The same $2,000 total budget in Washington, D.C. leaves you scraping by in a basement studio. In Bucaramanga, you get a full apartment with a pool. Now let's move next door to a country where the budget's simpler to calculate because the dollar is the currency. Ecuador. What if the stress of calculating exchange rates and losing money to sudden fluctuation simply did not exist? That's what sets Ecuador apart. It uses the US dollar, and for anyone earning in the American currency, that means predictability. There we choose Cuenca, Ecuador's third largest city and one of the favorites of our viewers. The city has around 600,000 people in the metro area and is located in the southern highlands near the Andes, about 2,500 meters above sea level. The climate is mild all year, ranging between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit most days. Because of this temperate weather, utility bills are much lower compared to hotter or colder cities, and the currency stability avoids surprises. Housing options are strong, spending between 500 and 700 secures either a high-standard one-bedroom apartment in El Centro or along the river or a two-bedroom place in a newer building. These units often include security, elevators, and good insulation. For $2,000 a month, spending a third of it in housing gives you far more than the average local resident. Average expenses for electricity, water, and gas fall around $40 to $80 monthly. Groceries average $220 if you shop in the large food markets, where fresh vegetables, meats, and fruits arrive daily. Dining out is also not expensive. With $300 monthly for restaurants, you can comfortably eat out 3 to 4 times every single week. Public transportation costs only about $40, and because the historic center is walkable, you save even further. Adding it all up, a simple budget of $2,000 covers everything and still leaves about $445 for travel or discretionary spending. In Cuenca, that positions you firmly in the upper middle class, a level far above average. In Chicago, an income of $2,000 and a budget of $700 for housing puts you into a lower class tenant of a studio in a high crime area. Now let's turn to a landlocked, almost always ignored nation, Paraguay. Asunción, the national capital, is our choice in Paraguay. Located on the Paraguay River in the country's southwest, it has a population of nearly 550,000 residents in the city and over 2 million in the metro area. The climate is subtropical, with long, humid summers and short, mild winters. Life there runs at a slower pace compared to many other capitals in South America, and that's part of what draws in newcomers. The city has a reputation for being very affordable, but many dismiss it as too basic or underdeveloped. The reality is that Asunción has grown steadily, with new cafes, health centers, and modern housing changing perceptions. This is what an expat in Asunción told us, open quote, "Asunción is a welcoming city. The historic center is not very well preserved, but the people are friendly with that typical indigenous hospitality. The financial center here is growing quite a bit, with some tall towers being built." End quote. For $500 to $700 monthly, you can rent a modern 2-bedroom apartment in neighborhoods like Villamorra, Carmelitas, or Recoleta. These apartments often include access to swimming pool, gym, parking, and 24-hour security. Monthly utilities are straightforward, covering electricity, water, internet, and mobile services. Usually comes to around $120. Groceries average $220 per month if you shop at local supermarkets and markets. Dining out is affordable at about $320 each month, which comfortably supports 3 to 5 outings every week. Transportation costs roughly $80 per month. Altogether, these costs come to around $1,665. That leaves a cushion of about $335 out of $2,000 budget to save or spend traveling around, and in Asunción, your income of $2,000 places you firmly in the upper middle class. That same $2,000 that in Asunción makes you comfortable and give you access to a pool and a gym, in Boston, Massachusetts, give you access to 3 roommates. Now we move back to the Pacific coast, Peru. Piura in northern Peru is our focus here. It's a city with about 500,000 residents, located a short drive from some of Peru's best beaches along the Pacific. The climate is hot and sunny with little rainfall, which is why air conditioning is a necessity in most apartments. Compared to Lima, Piura offers not just lower costs, but also less congestion and a slower pace of urban life. A housing budget of $550 secures a modern 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, a spacious unit that might be unaffordable in Lima. Because the climate is hot, power usage goes up when cooling used heavily, but the overall bill remains reasonable. This cost anchors the budget and still leaves enough space for other categories of spending. Utilities covering electricity, water, internet, and mobile fall between $60 to $110 per month. Groceries come to about $210 monthly, and that includes the world-famous Peruvian seafood. Dining out is also not expensive. A 320 budget is enough for several outings each week, mixing casual daily menus with restaurant dinners. Transport stays low, around 50 monthly, since mototaxis and ride-hailing apps are widely available. One major benefit of Piura is its proximity to beaches such as Mancora and Vichaito. Weekend trips are easy, affordable, and add leisure without creating big costs. A simple budget of $2,000 covers all essentials, plus multiple outings, with $200 left over for travel or savings. That income places you firmly in the upper middle class locally. Now we go to one of the continent's priciest capitals, Uruguay. Can $2,000 stretch in one of the most expensive capitals of South America? Montevideo is where we test that. With a metro population of about 1.7 million, it holds nearly half of the country's residents. The climate is mild and coastal, with summer highs near 29 Celsius and cool winters where heating becomes necessary. It's a safe city with European influence in its architecture and culture, but that stability comes at a higher cost than many neighbors. Housing sets the tone there. If you look in areas like Pocitos or Punta Carretas, a modern one-bedroom can easily exceed $700. To fit within our $2,000 budget, we need to pick a smaller unit, like a studio, which you can find for $500 to $700. In one of my videos, I compared Uruguay versus Argentina, and the higher cost of living in Uruguay was the decisive factor in favor of Argentina. Utility add another load. Expect $80 to $140 monthly, with the higher range during winter when heating is a must. Grocery expenses are noticeably higher than typical South American levels, anywhere between $230 and $340 per month. Dining out costs around $300, which allows a couple of mid-range meals out each week. These prices put Montevideo closer to mid-tier European cities in price. The pattern becomes clear. Montevideo provides reliable safety and quality of life, but requires budget discipline. With $2,000, you are middle class locally, with some comfort but not extravagance. And despite being one of the most expensive capitals in South America and the most expensive city in this list, Montevideo is still 24% cheaper than Houston. Now, the next country is cheap, one of the cheapest, but I would not recommend you to move there. Venezuela. What does $2,000 buy you in one of the most unstable economies in the region? For this example, we look at Barcelona, a coastal city in eastern Venezuela near the Caribbean. Together with its neighbor Puerto La Cruz, it has around 1.1 million residents in the metro area. The climate is tropical with high temperatures year-round and very limited seasonal variation. On paper, you can afford much there, but the reality is shaped by the condition of the infrastructure and security situation. Venezuela was once among the richest countries in South America, supported by oil wealth. Now, it's a society marked by collapse. Widespread inflation and years of instability have reshaped daily life. Many assume that makes living there impossible, and in many ways, those concerns are justified. Electricity blackouts happen often, water shortages are common, and medicines are hard to find. Added to that are high levels of violence and criminality that affect almost every region, including Barcelona. Still, the costs themselves are low. For between $500 and $700, you can rent a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in secure buildings. Utilities cost around $60 to $120 per month, but sometimes you need full generators to have electricity. Groceries remain cheaper than in most regional peers, around $180 to $260 monthly, if the supermarkets have something in their shelves. Adding expenses, a lifestyle on $2,000 per month could, in theory, put you in the upper class. What matters is whether the property has tanks for water storage and a backup generator, because without them, daily life can become unpredictable. You would live in a secure unit, eat out, and even keep a saving cushion, but this comfort depends entirely on working backups and private services to cover where the state fails, which is pretty much in everything from healthcare to security. In Venezuela, you may enjoy more on paper, but when the lights go out and the water stops, you'll see why cheap does not equal livable. But while Venezuela is, sorry for saying that, a terrible place to live, there are many bright spots in South America. I saw many of them personally during my 26 years living there. So I selected the best cities in South America in one of our most important videos ever. Click on this video at your left to watch it, and join my Patreon for all the sources and charts from our videos, plus a chat with me. Tier 2 includes my top 3 ebooks on living abroad. Scan the QR code today.